I'm Pamela Portnoy.
I'm Alexa Marie Anderson.
And no one's okay. I did it. I pressed the button.
We're here again.
We did it. This is our second go at this. Second time's the charm, because if there's going to be a third time,
we might not make it.
We might not make it.
I don't think any of us will survive.
We will pass away. So, you guys, we have a guest today. Matthew Mancuso is here with us.
Yes.
I call him Matt. I mean, you're professional. You go by...
I'm Matt. I'm
professionally. You go professionally by Matt?
Yeah.
Your IMDb says Matthew.
Someone else created that. That was not me.
It might have been me. We're pretty dumb. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We should fix that.
On my union cards, just because it was before I was in my union, so on my union it has Matt.
All right. I should have probably asked before I created your IMDb page. I'm so sorry. Okay.
But to be honest, before you do that, there are two IMDb pages with my name, because actually I'm the only one on IMDb, which is really nice. It makes you feel good. But both of them have Matthew, and both of them were created by somebody other than me. So I was
I think one of them was me. I don't know about the other one.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. This is Matt Mancuso. He is an actor, playwright, producer, and professional ballroom dancer. He's from New Jersey. I met him when he was out here in LA. We studied Meisner together, and while he was out here, he produced a bunch of different stuff, lots of plays, and I got to act with him on several occasions. And there's a phone. Someone's calling you, Matt.
There's the landline that still exists in the New Jersey household.
Oh my God.
This is comedy going on now.
This is comedy. Let's just keep it.
We're keeping it for sure.
I love that you have a landline. You know what? My parents still have a landline as well.
Well, because I'm in the New Jersey Mancuso household.
Yes.
Right now with the quarantine and stuff like that. Because I was on my way to move out and everything when quarantine was starting. So I was like, okay, I guess that's not going to happen right now. So yes, occasionally we have a landline ring, and I'm just like, yeah, great.
It'll be the comedic relief. We got this.
We did it. Okay.
We did it.
As I was saying.
Oh, right.
Matt's produced a bunch of different things. While he was out here in LA, he produced several plays, and he produced Pretty Dumb alongside me and Jackson Palmer and Josh Vonderhaar. And he not only studied here and in New Jersey, but he also studied at RADA in London. So, whoop-de-doo.
So
fucking
cool.
Badass.
I don't know what to say to that.
You're like, yes, I
compliments.
Did it.
I can't. I'm gonna overheat.
This is exit stage left time. Exit
stage left.
Yes, I'm badass. Yes, just say that.
He's like, I guess I am. It's fine.
Oh, look, a fly.
There really was a fly on one of our podcasts.
Was it last episode? Yeah, last episode.
It was the fly from the vice presidential debate.
I swear to God. But the thing is, we recorded that episode before the debate, and legit a fly landed on my head.
Like, no joke.
And we're releasing that episode, you guys. We're recording here on a Monday. It's like a week or so before we're going to release this episode. A fly landed on my head, and it was before the debate. So the fly just happened, and we're releasing an episode where a fly lands on my head.
So the fly went from you to Vice President Pence. That's important. You were the reason. You were the reason, Portnoy.
I was not the reason. The reason is the ring light. The ring light that is right behind my computer attracts.
Maybe he had a ring light as well.
Maybe
it's possible.
He was very well lit.
He was very well lit.
Yes,
so that is very
applauded.
possible.
Let's applause for those lighting guys. There you go.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Because at least they had some work, because most of the lighting people are out of work right now, so applause for them.
We love an opportunity to work.
Yes.
But yeah, no. It sounds really gross right now because I'm just like, yeah, there are flies in my apartment. No, they just like to come in when they're really fast. I try to like ninja my way in here. But like with the heat, they like to come inside.
Thing. No, it's a California thing. Was the first place I lived in California, my brother's condo. Oh my God, that first summer, because I moved out in July 1st or something of 2011, and so many flies, because they try to escape the heat, so they enter your house. We killed so many, and my first place in Playa, we had to tape the windows on the outside to keep the flies from coming in.
I miss Playa.
Oh my gosh. I can't say that I have flies, but I have crickets. Crickets get into my kitchen.
They're useful, though. They'll tell you what temperature it is if you do some math.
Wait, what?
What?
Isn't there there's an equation. If you count the number of chirps, and then you subtract by something, divide by something, I don't know the equation off the top of my head, you can actually figure out how hot it is outside, because the faster they chirp, I think the hotter it is.
That's nuts.
This is some...
Matt doesn't believe me.
No, I believe you.
I heard that somewhere. I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
No. I believe you, because you have told me some crazy things, and I'm just like, no, it's true.
I'm just a wealth of useless knowledge.
Pam will tell me things, and I'm like, no. And then I look it up, and I'm like, oh.
That makes me so happy, because sometimes I feel like I'm talking out of my butt. And
no, you're really not. You're really not. You have all these cool info. I love it. Yeah. It's good. It's all good.
No, you guys. Exit stage left.
But enough about Pam.
Yeah, enough about me. Sorry. Sorry to take your spotlight, Matt.
We got to put the spotlight back on Matt. Matt, tell us about yourself and your career, your journey so far.
Oh, Matt, you're still here.
I'm still here. I haven't gone away.
He's still here.
Okay, so we'll try to make this short and sweet. Well,
take
at least
your
short.
Time.
So I started professionally when I was 12 in the entertainment industry, thanks to doing an open call for Disney's The Kid that starred Bruce Willis. If everyone remembers that, you can watch it on Disney Plus. That's right, a shameless plug for Disney Plus. If you want to pay for this podcast, that's totally fine. Moving on.
Yeah.
I did an open call for that when I was 11 years old, and I made it to producer callbacks in New York, which is, anyone who's been to producer callbacks understands that's kind of nerve-wracking, but also really cool. But it's like a sea of 5 people, and when you're 11 years old, it's like, who are these 5 people behind the table? And I also couldn't whistle. I remember I had to whistle for that scene.
You had to learn?
I learned I couldn't whistle. I still can't whistle blowing out, but I can whistle sucking in. So I literally sucked in trying to whistle.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah. So, but it was like, I was like, I'm going to do the best I can. I clapped because I had to call a dog. So I was like, I clapped or whatever. So anyway, either an assistant to the producer, or I say a PA, called my parents. They said, if you make the final 5 in New York, then they're flying you out to LA to do final callbacks in LA. So if you get a phone call on Monday, then you've made the callbacks. They called. I was holding a plate. I think my mother told one of my brothers, take the plate from him, because I was about to drop it.
Do you remember all this?
I do.
You have the best memory of anyone I know.
This is great. Like the storytelling of the whole thing. I'm like, I can imagine it. It's very good.
Yeah, it was over these like mail racks that my mom had that had like all the different things for like the kids. So I remember I was holding the plate. We were setting the table, and they phone called my mom, and someone said, take the plate from him, because I was about to drop it. And she called to say that I didn't make the final callbacks, but that I should continue because she felt that I could make it. So she gave my mother a list of agents and managers. And when I was 11 years old, I remember my parents sitting me down at the kitchen table and asking me, do you want to do this? And it was a resounding yes. So at 11 years old, I made my career choice. And then after that, I was 12. I had a manager. And I got to audition for a lot of really fun things. I auditioned for Cheaper by the Dozen, Steve Martin film.
Ooh,
that's awesome.
I had a great audition for that, but I lost out because of height. I was either too short or too tall. I can't remember. Because I remember I went into the casting office. It was just me and the casting directors. I auditioned. They really liked it. They said, stand up. And I saw their eyes change. And I was like, ugh. But I didn't know fuck when I was that young. So
it was more like, oh, shucks.
Yeah, it's probably a shucks or like a cheese. I auditioned for The Sopranos a couple times.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah. I almost was on it once, but they cut the scene.
Bummer.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. And then and some other stuff. Oh, I auditioned for a couple off-Broadway shows. One Broadway show. Yeah, when they were doing Tom Sawyer, when they were doing the musical version of Tom Sawyer. Yeah. So I remember that. Yes. I remember I also went in for Summer of 42, which was off-Broadway, which had an incredible cast. Now that I see who got cast in the show, and I was like, damn, I would have loved to have been in that. Now that I'm older, I was like, no, I didn't get it. But yeah, so that was my life. And then I got to high school. I told my parents I wanted a real high school experience. I don't know if that was the best choice, but I did. And then went to high school, went to college, moved out to Los Angeles. Oh, wait, I was in Philly for 2 years before Los Angeles. Then I was in Los Angeles. Then I was in London for a summer. And then I was back in New Jersey. I just sped everything up. There you go.
I love it. Well
I know
done.
everything now. I know everything. This is
Absolutely
awesome.
everything. Yeah.
Did you always want to, I mean, you said you wanted to be an actor since you were 11, but do you remember wanting to be anything else before that?
I went through a stage where I wanted to be like my parents because both my parents are physical therapists. So, and I remember going through the stage, I was like, I'm gonna, but I think every kid goes through that, whereas like, I'm going to be what my parents are because you don't know anything else.
Yeah, I guess.
So, and because even my older brother did that, I think we all kind of not very seriously. My little brother is an athletic trainer, so he's actually like my parents. But I think for a second I was like, oh, I'm going to be a physical therapist. I think maybe when I was like in kindergarten, because you had to draw what you wanted to be, and then they put it on like a star or something, in the classroom, blah blah blah. I do remember, I think it was second grade, because that was when we had changed schools, because I just remember this hanging in the hallway of my grammar school, that I said I wanted to be basically a comic book artist.
Oh, cool.
Because I think that might have been around the time that I discovered X-Men, the animated series, which then that started my love with the X-Men. But pretty soon, the acting and the entertainment was always in there, because we were exposed to musicals at a young age. My mother loved Sound of Music and Music Man and Singing in the Rain. So like these were stuff that we had on VHS. Yes, back when VHS was a thing.
What's that? I'm too young to know what that is.
We had, no joke, we had the 2 VHS edition of Sound of Music, because that's how long Sound of Music was, that it had to be on 2 different VHSs, which I think actually Titanic was released the same way, because Titanic was 3 hours.
Yes, I believe it was.
So yeah, we had that. We had all of the Disney, the whatever that, can't remember, I'm losing the word, when the Disney animation was revitalized with Little Mermaid and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and all the Alan Menken and Howard Ashman scores. So that was always there. And then, believe it or not, my brother, who's also in the entertainment industry, my older brother, we created our own television network when we were kids. So,
I love that.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yep. We had upfronts every year.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Who would watch?
We did.
You're like, just us.
But like, no joke, my older brother, who's a producer, we had upfronts every year, because somehow at some age he learned what upfronts were.
Let's explain to our listeners who don't know what upfronts are, what they are.
So upfronts, because it is a thing that my older brother and I talk about every year. So upfronts is when specifically the 5 major networks that are currently on now announce their fall schedules. So our 5 major network televisions: Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, and CW. So somehow my brother learned what upfronts were. So I remember every year, like around May, my brother would announce what shows were coming back and what new shows are on the fall schedule. I remember, I think I created 2 shows on that schedule. Like I had 2 of my shows that ran for a while.
Have you ever submitted a show to your upfronts with your brother and got denied?
Not that I can remember, but he created most of the shows. But like,
Got
I
it.
remember it was a big thing when the show that we created called Margaret's House was ending its 10-season run.
Amazing. What a big moment for
Yes.
Margaret's house.
Margaret's House. It was ending its 10-season run. So it was like a big deal. 'Cause
Big
we
rap
played-
party.
Probably. We played all the roles. Like we would act out all of the characters.
That's
in our basement.
unbelievable.
So we played all the roles. We had a show like called First Laugh Bank. Belonging to the East was one of the shows I created.
I love these names, like these titles. Like, how did you come up with these titles?
I have no idea. I know how I came up with Belonging to the East. My parents had a condo in Ocean City, Maryland, and we would go, that they rented out for pretty much most of the summer, and we would go, that was our vacation. That was our family vacation. We would go down.
I used to go as well. I'm from the East Coast, so that is a very fond memory of mine.
Okay, so then we would go for 2 weeks. We would take like the 2 weeks and we'd do a family vacation. And it was not a huge condo because we would bring my grandparents too. So, one particular time we were all in like the big bed. The three of us were in the big bed, and above the big bed was like this, I don't know, like art piece that had like a hummingbird and some like things involved. And I remember just staring at it because we were talking about upfronts, what new shows were going to happen. And of course, I don't think my little brother was involved at all. He was just kind of there. But I remember just looking at the thing going, and I just came up with the name Belonging to the East. And my brother was like, okay, that could work.
So dramatic.
Isn't
I
it
love
crazy,
it.
like how our imaginations were when we were younger? Like how we interpret things. Like I almost want that back. Like I feel like as I've gotten older, I've lost a lot of that. And I'm like, I need, that's what I need. That's what I need. That imagination. I think that's, I don't know. It fascinates me.
So imaginative and uninhibited, you know, because you don't have as much experience in like being shot down by people around you at that age.
Yeah. And I mean, like they say, it's like, you know, we don't have that full prefrontal cortex that's been formed at that point. So where you've learned so many different things at that point, by the time you reach like 21, it's supposed to be formed. I think that's what they say, around 21. So around the time when we're all ending college, we all have that fully formed prefrontal cortex. So we have all of that crap that we got shoved in there as I hit my head.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, so I guess it was always there. It was always somehow there lurking. We would put on shows in the house. You know, we would just come up with these things in the house. We put on the shows in the house and things like that. So yeah, it was always there.
I love that. You mentioned, and I mentioned that you spent time in New Jersey, New York, Philly, LA, and London. In particularly New York, LA, London, what are some of the differences you've noticed in the industry in all three places?
I think I used to say this to you a lot when I was living in LA. So with New York, there was less of an obsession with reels. I think that's slightly changed a little bit. Like they definitely use it more now because of websites. So like definitely in New York, you have to have a website. You have to have a website because if they like you, they want to go and see some of your stuff. Whereas like LA was always like, do you have a reel? Do you have a reel? That was like the first thing. Do you have a reel? And I remember moving to LA going, what the fuck is a reel?
You're like, I'm trying to get work. So like, so you have to have a reel to get work, but you can't have a reel unless you've gotten work.
It's such a catch-22.
It's such a catch-22 because New York is so theater-based.
Totally.
It's so theater-based so that if you can't do it in the room, they don't care. That was so much about what New York was. And I think slightly that's changed right now, especially because of where we're going, what we're going through. But so much of that was like, if you can't do it in the room, we don't want to see it. Because I also worked as an intern for, I want to say for about a good 2 years. I worked as an intern in a couple different places. And one of them was CBS Casting, and they went and saw theater all the time. They went and saw theater all the time so they could find someone and use them and put them into things and whatever. But every reel they got sent, they put it on a shelf. They never watched it. They never watched a single reel. And they got reels from, I'm not going to mention the names of these actors because they are working and some of them are really high end now. But they would get reels from these actors, never watched a single one. Never watched it. If anything, they would tell the interns, you watch it. If you think we should watch it, we'll watch it, but we really don't care.
That's so interesting that they wouldn't watch the reels, but they would go see theater.
They would go see theater. They would go see off-Broadway, off-Broadway, Broadway, anything. They would go to see, because it's about that, can you do it in the moment? Because then that's kind of like the same thing. Then you can show up and set and do it on the moment on set. Right?
It's fascinating because I was, every time there's like a new show, I like to look at the cast on IMDb and see like where they studied and what their previous credits are. And there are so many times where I'll like see an actor that doesn't necessarily have the usual like laundry list, like stack of credits. And they'll be like the new lead, which it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does. And I'll like look into them. I'm like, oh, like you studied at this prestigious acting program. What probably happened is casting saw you at a showcase, something like that, and that's super cool. And it just goes to show like not every journey is the same.
And so it was very interesting moving to LA dealing with that, because Philadelphia is even different than New York, because Philadelphia is such inbred. You have to work your way into the Philly culture, and then once you're in, then you're kind of in.
Oh, okay.
Every Philly theater knows you. You'll probably work at every single one, and you could probably work all year. Most high-end Philly actors work every year in multiple different theaters, because there's a ton, small ones, big ones, ton ones, and they work all year, and they're fine. They make their 11 weeks for equity, which has now been changed, or possibly, I don't know. They make their 11 weeks to get their insurance, and they're great, and they're fine, and they can have their families there. They can have a house there. They can have the acting career doing musicals, plays, whatever, and produce really good theater. That's the thing, is like Philly does have tons of great stuff. But LA was definitely different. It was definitely, there was more, they would keep more space between you and the casting director, is what I felt like. There was more space. You couldn't get to them as easily as you could in New York.
Yeah.
Whereas you could go to an open call, or you could go, if you were at EMC, you could definitely be seen at things and possibly, start to get your face recognized. Then you would meet people flyering, because I did that, flyered on the TKTS Island for a job, and you could meet other actors who were pushing ahead and doing things. So LA, it felt like there was a lot more space, which, makes LA harder in some ways, and some people say it's not, but London is then absolutely different than all of that.
What did you notice was different in London?
Their approach to acting is completely different than...
Oh, it's the opposite.
Their approach to acting is, their approach to education, let me say this, their approach to acting education or theater education itself is completely different than it is in the US. And this is one of my soapboxes. So I will try to dilute this as much as possible. Because like the way they set up their acting stuff, so you have to audition for their drama schools, which are accredited, and there's only about like 10 to 12, I believe, of the big ones. And they're on a list. They have the same type of auditions every year. You kind of pick the ones you want to go to. It's pretty much the same program. It's a 3-year BA, and that's what it is. Now you just pick the school you want to go to. That's it. And then if you don't get into the schools you want to get into, you audition again next year, because they only accept a certain number, and then you perform every year, which doesn't happen in American schools. You get accepted to a 4-year college, and then you then have to fight every year to get cast in something. So you already believe that the life of this entertainment industry, which is part of it, but it's really not the drive, is competition. All you're doing is competing. You can't even really go to acting class and support your fellow classmates, which you do, but at the same time you're going, oh, they're better than me. Oh crap.
It's such bullshit.
I have to be better than them. But you don't have to.
Yeah, I often think back on my theater training. I went to Point Park in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
And I love the training I got. Totally love the training I got. I wouldn't be the actor I am today without it. However, I sort of think of it as trauma school instead of drama school sometimes because of the competitive nature. And actually, I was going to ask you, Matt, I spent some time in New York as well and auditioning, and I found it to be a lot harder to get into theater there just because of the saturation of women and going to open calls and waiting in line and getting up early and signing a list and maybe not being seen. And so I was curious how it was for you.
My experience with the lines and stuff was very different than a lot of people's. And especially for women, because it is true, the saturation of women in the industry itself is just a lot, which makes it much harder for women. And there's already at that point, because I graduated in 2009, so at that point they were progressing, but they still weren't as progressive as they are now, where everyone is really trying to write parts for women, write shows that are just women, you know, write shows about women from other ethnic backgrounds, you know, like where they're trying to now create roles for women because it's about damn time.
Amen.
So my experience was different because I was lucky in that I graduated college. I had a callback the day after I graduated college in Philadelphia for the acting apprenticeship at Walnut Street Theater, which is a huge house. It's a Lort A house in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Which if you know your, you know, equity contracts, that's a big deal. So I remember I did 6 hours of callbacks that day.
It's long. It's grueling, right? Like the process.
6 hours of callbacks. And then I remember this because my best friend and I had decided that we were going to Chicago after that. Because I was like, I need a break. I need a vacation. I've just spent 4 years in college. I haven't really taken a vacation. We're going to go to Chicago. Because he had an uncle that lived in Chicago that we could stay with, so we didn't have to pay for hotels. We were poor. I was lucky. So then I got that job. So I knew where I was going 3 months after. So that job started in September. And while I did audition for stuff continually through that summer, most of it was non-union stuff. And I had some callbacks. I got a callback for a non-union tour of Oliver and some other stuff. None of the things panned out. So I at least knew where I was going. And because of that program, I came out with EMC points. So my life of waiting online was 10 times easier than the non-union people, because I would show up at 6:30 a.m. instead of 4. Like I was getting on my train from Philadelphia at, I think the train from Philly that I used to take, I would go to bed at like midnight. I would wake up around 2:30. I would get dressed and everything. And then I'd get on my train at 4:30 a.m. and I'd take the train all the way into New York from Philly, which was about 2 hours, sign my name. And then I was normally seen by noon.
Yeah. I had EMC points as well, but I don't know, maybe just because of the timing of everything too. And obviously I always feel like the amount of women at these auditions are like 2 times the amount of men. So I will say, like, it wasn't as bad, as opposed to my friends that were non-union. Sometimes they wouldn't get seen at all, and I'd at least get seen by like the last minute of the day. You know what I mean? When they're tired and exhausted and sick of watching people.
Yeah.
But no, it definitely, anything helps for sure.
Yeah. And I think also I was trying to be strategic, because at that point I thought, oh, I'm terrible at singing, so I'm not going to do any musical theater anymore, which was like my decision. At that point, I was like, oh, I'm not doing musical theater anymore. Like, I had made that decision. I'm done. I'm just going to do straight theater. That's all I want to do. In addition to film and television, it's like, I'm just going to do straight theater. So most of the stuff that I would go and audition for, or that I would go in for, would be plays that, like, I remember I went up to do one of the calls for a Labyrinth Theater Company, which I'm still hoping one day to work at Labyrinth Theater Company. Anything that was anything that was like where I could go and do a monologue audition or things like that, I would go in, or sides auditions where you got the sides and you could hold the sides, you could do it. So that's what I did. So I was able to have a little bit more time being seen than others, so it wasn't as grueling. Plus, being in Philadelphia, like I said, it was grateful because I basically was able in Philadelphia. I was working for 2 years straight as an actor, which not a lot of people can say. I was like, I was blessed in that my first 9 months I was with Walnut. So I did their children's tour, and plus I did both of their children main stage shows, and I understudied their main stage shows.
That's awesome.
And it was great. And I was like, so I'm in a big house. And then I got a job right after. It didn't pay anything, but I was like, who cares? I'm doing another play.
Right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
And then soon after that, it was like, oh, we want you for the understudy for Three Penny Opera. Okay, I'll go understudy Three Penny Opera. Great. Again, not getting paid. I'm like, I don't care. I'll understudy. Woo. And it's like, oh, now we want you in Amadeus. Okay. Again, getting paid $180 a week. But I'm like, I don't care. I'll take it. I'll figure it out. You know,
it's what you have to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then it's like, it was literally like one job after another, because I remember I finished Amadeus, or Amadeus was about to be done, and I got invited to go to the opening of Superior Donuts at the Arden, and I knew everybody at the Arden because I had just done an understudy thing, and then I was bombarded by 3 of them, my friend Dan, Aaron Reed, and Matt Decker, because I remember all 3 of them came up to me individually saying, will you understand? We want you to understudy Wanamaker's Pursuit, which was their brand new play for that season. I was like, okay, yeah, we'll talk. And then I remember in the after party, it was like the 3 of them converging on me like sharks. I was like standing in the middle of the room going, what's going to happen? They're like, do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'll totally do it. It was great.
You just blew my mind for a second. Did you Superior Donuts is a play?
Superior Donuts is a
play.
So
the show that they made is based on the play?
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. Okay.
Tracy Letts.
In case our listeners aren't aware, like Alexa and Matt are way more into the theater scene than I am. I love the theater scene, but they know more.
Oh, it's a
lot more.
It's a great play by Tracy Letts. I mean, if you know Tracy Letts, August Osage County, which is his Pulitzer Prize winning play, but Superior Donuts was the first one he followed up August with. And it's not August Osage County. Like, people are like, well, it's not August. It's not.
It's nothing like that, but
it's not. But it is, again, in this time that we're in, it's a great comment of, again, racism, and all this stuff. And it was beautiful. It was really beautifully done. I remember Arden's production was beautifully done. And I was there because I was invited to opening night, so it was nice to see, but it's beautifully done. It's a beautiful play. So
I would love to see it. I've only ever read it. I haven't seen it. So
yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine what it would be like now, especially in this time period, if someone were to do it. So, but yeah, so like I was lucky that I got to work for 2 years. But then like after that show was done, that's when I moved to Los Angeles, and then of course nothing happened.
A lot happened, though.
A lot happened in a good way, just nothing that was like, oh, I'm going to move to LA and this is going to happen. It's like, no, a lot of things happen in a good way. Training and meeting friends, meeting a group of people, trying things out, which is kind of what you have to do. I started to write there.
Produce
or
plays.
Try to write there.
You wrote a shit ton.
And yeah, I wrote something for Pam that we did.
Rum and Cookies.
Rum and Cookies, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Matt wrote a 2-person play that we performed. Fabulous.
Specifically for Pam. This part was written for Pam. As I said, this was written for Pam.
Is there a recording of this or a video of anything? Like, I need to see this.
There is, isn't there? Which I still haven't seen.
There is a video. I can send you the link. I have it.
And I have to say, this is so embarrassing. I think I mentioned this on the show. There was one evening of Rum and Cookies. I was distracted by someone sitting in the front row that was talking and moving around a lot, that I had the biggest dry that I have ever had in my life. Matt, there's no way you don't remember this. And I remember I had a line and I looked at you, and it was a line that like you couldn't save me on. And I remember we were looking at each other for like 30 seconds and just like trying to be in the moment and like playing with like, and like drinking our beer. And I was looking at you like, save me. And you're looking at me like, I can't save you. And it was like quiet for 30 seconds until finally I got my shit together and I remembered. And I was so humiliated because I was like, I let him down. It was so embarrassing.
Honestly, that's the best part
I
about
hope
live
you didn't
theater.
film that performance, is all I'm going to say.
I honestly don't remember it.
Oh my God. One of my most embarrassing acting moments. And it takes a lot to embarrass me, but that was rough. That was a rough one.
But that just goes to show, like, he didn't even remember it. So
Pam and I had the best pre-show warm-up for that.
We had a great ritual.
It was because it was great. We would go because this is when I was trying to do a nonprofit theater company, and so we had upstairs. We did it in this beautiful location, I think Civic Center Studios.
Oh, gorgeous! And they never have done a play before. I think we were their first play.
Yeah, so it was really great, because they had an upstairs and a downstairs. So upstairs was where you got to go after the performance. So like you could go and there would be some cocktails and whatever. And so Pam and I decided that since we had cocktails after every performance for all of our guests who wanted to stay, we went up and before every performance took a shot.
Yep.
amazing.
We would do a quick run through. We would do like a speed through of the lines, super fast, and then we take a shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a really good ritual. So, but I do not remember you drying. I don't.
It was like a 30-second dry, Matt. Awful.
But 30 seconds is quick. It just feels forever for us.
It feels like 20 minutes.
Yeah. You just think to yourself going, fuck.
I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, why isn't he saving me? Oh, right, because it's this line and he can't save me. You're fucked.
I don't even remember. Plus, the play at this point has been, I don't want to say he's been rewritten, but things have been added and changed and whatever,
I remember Hunter came up to me and he was like, so that happened. Something along those lines. He's like, it's okay. He like tried to make me feel better, but I was like, oh God.
I don't think it happened on the night that we filmed, because we filmed Saturday night, which was like our second to last performance. So I don't think it happened on that. Maybe it was like Thursday when we opened.
You have the best memory. I honestly don't remember.
I don't remember you drawing, so I don't have the best memory.
Yeah, but you're like an encyclopedia. Like, I'm sure you've noticed this, Alexa. Like, he will pull out like the entire like cast and crew list of every show.
I know, like even the names you're remembering
at any
from
time.
way back when. I'm like, I don't even know what I ate for breakfast yesterday. So
not every show. It's really only the shows that I watch consistently.
You're like, yeah, but Superior Donuts was like the one that he did after August Osage County, and this is like who was in it.
That's only because I was living, and honestly, it's like I'm trying to downplay what they're saying, everybody. And that's only because I was living in New York or on the East Coast, because Superior Donuts was after I moved to Philly, because August was there while I was doing, I think it was sophomore year is when it opened, my sophomore year. I'm basing it off of, I had just done my Suzuki workshop. So,
dear God, Matt.
Yes, Suzuki.
So I had just done a Suzuki workshop. So I think it was around sophomore, junior year for me of college. So as I went to go see it with my first time I saw it 3 times. First time I saw it, I went to go see it with Katie Carter, my friend Katie Carter, who's now a big time director. And yeah. I saw 3 women play the role of the mother. Saw Deanna Dunnigan, Felicia Rashad, who was fucking
Do you guys
badass.
see what I mean?
Oh, I know. He remembers everything. This is amazing.
And Estelle Parsons, which was the last one I saw. I saw Estelle Parsons on tour. Estelle Parsons did it on tour, and the last time I saw August was when I was in Philly. Yeah, because I was bartending at the Forest Theater, where August was playing, so I got to see Estelle Parsons do it. It was
I'm so jealous right now. Oh my gosh.
And all 3 women did it so different. That's why it was like wonderful to watch it, because it was like, oh wow. I was like, okay.
That part is epic.
And it's so funny. It was the way that I think I always compared it. If you've seen the stage version of August, the way it was originally staged, because now they probably stage it differently. Well, not this ending, but at least with this particular set, because it's a beautiful set that had 3 levels.
With the staircase, right?
The staircase.
Yeah.
It was so interesting watching the 3 women at the end of the play, if you know August, climb the stairs because they all climbed it differently. And I was like, this is blowing my mind.
It's
So
a fabulous. That's probably one of my favorites, honestly.
it's so
For sure.
so good. Anyway, okay, let's move off of this because I'll talk about it again.
Tell us about you mentioned your writing. We want to hear more about it. And I mean, you've done so many things. You probably have the strongest work ethic I know of, one of the strongest out of people that I know. And don't roll your eyes at me. And I want to know what keeps you motivated and moving.
He's like, I gotta go. It's it. I'm done. I'm done. That's really it.
Literally every time I talk to you, you have like 5 plates spinning. It's all right, Matt.
amazing.
It's all right. You're gonna be okay. But I need you to tell me, Alexa, and our listeners where the hell you get your energy from.
Yes.
I'll keep going because I'm really enjoying the shade of red that your face is right now.
Oh God. Oh God. Okay. Whew. Okay. I guess it's a familial thing is part of it. I was lucky, which again is not everybody's experience. And I completely understand that. And I've talked to people who did not have that. My best friend didn't necessarily have that experience growing up. That, you know, like when I said, oh, I want to do this, my parents didn't bat an eye. It was like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this correctly. You know, that was the answer when I was 11, they said, do you want to do this? I said, yes. Okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this correctly, which meant we're getting you a manager based off of this list that we've got. Because I remember, like, I went and I interviewed with Abrams artists when I was 12. I interviewed with CESD, which are these big, you know, agencies now, like mid-level agencies, and I think they were just starting out back then. You know, so I was like going in, so they were very serious. Because in my household, dreams, when they talked about dreams were a thing. You had to have a dream. You know, if you have a dream, you go after the dream. You know, that's the end. That's the end. Said in the house was begin with the end in mind all the time. So you begin with the end in mind. So you think about where you want to go. You begin with that, and then you work towards that, and you work your hardest towards that. So I guess that's kind of where it comes from. Because don't get me wrong, there are many times I go down rabbit holes of deep despair.
As we all do.
Honestly, like I was thinking about that. Like, there are so many people that say you can't, if you really believe in yourself, it won't happen. If you have a shred of doubt, it's not going to happen. I'm like, how do you not have a shred of doubt? That's horseshit.
Well, here's the thing. It is horseshit because, all right, I'm going to lay it all out for you people.
Do it.
Bring it.
Two actors that I love and respect. I just read an article before we started this, believe it or not, and then another actor who I completely love, and I completely love this actress as well. But Viola Davis's new movie is going to be the movie adaptation of August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, starring Chadwick Boseman also in his final film appearance. So everybody needs to watch it. It's on Netflix.
Oh yeah. I want to see that. Yeah.
So I'm shamelessly promoting Netflix. So God, give me some money. Anyway,
hey Netflix, what's up?
Hey.
So just subsidize this podcast and everything is fine. Okay.
And hire us all in a film.
Specifically Sorkin.
That's not asking for too much, right? That's not asking for too much.
Not at all.
I don't think so.
Anyway,
No such thing.
So, you know, Viola Davis says, like, you know, the nature of the artist is that you're always afraid you're going to be found out. She said it in an article. It's like, you know, because she said when Denzel Washington, who's producing August Wilson's this production of this film, he also produced Fences and directed Fences, which was 2016, I think.
Yes, you are correct.
You know, he asked her, and apparently she said she told him to go go pick a slew of other actresses, not her, to play this character of Ma Rainey. And because it is like, you're still scared you're going to be found out as like terrible, or that you're bad.
Viola Davis.
This is Viola Davis, everybody.
Yeah.
And the other person who says it all the time is David Tennant. So I don't know if everyone knows David Tennant. He's a Scottish actor. Was the 10th Doctor on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Okay, because I love Doctor Who. And I love David Tennant. Love David Tennant. And he says the same thing on his podcast that he also produces, where he talks to a lot of actors and political people and all these people and all this stuff. And he says, like, for him, he's like, I'm always scared that I'm going to walk into an audition and they're going to go, oh, we realize now you suck. He says that every time. He says, I go into a production. I'm just like, that's the thing I'm thinking about. So actors always have that. Now, I think actors who are out of work for long periods of time experience it differently, because now it's like, well, now I've been out of work for so long, and now it's this, and now I'm terrible, and now this, and da 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 da. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just part of the nature. It's not necessarily that we think we're terrible, but it's like one of those things. We're afraid we're going to be found out by someone, that we're going to walk in and someone's going to officially say, like, to our face, oh, you're awful. And you're just like, oh, they found me out. Okay, I guess it's time to, I'll hang up my hat and I'll move in, I'll go start a sporting goods store in, I don't know, Missouri.
I mean, I would find it hard to believe that someone has ever said this to you if they've seen you act, Matt. But like, I'll say, like, I've definitely had people say things like that to me. I've definitely had people say that I had no soul when I was acting. I've definitely had people say that I have no future in this business. All things like I've yet to prove them wrong, but
You will.
You add that to your little chest of like, all right, let me flex that out and
it's the thing.
Move on.
David Tennant says the same thing. He's like, you never remember the good reviews, you remember the one bad one.
100%.
Yes.
You remember,
but also I don't want that kind of energy and those people to take up rent in my brain.
Yeah. So you do have to kind of you do have to kind of figure out how to do that. And sometimes it's therapy for people, which, if you need therapy, please go. If you feel like you do, if it's suggested to you, please go. Because it is helpful. Mental health, we're all in quarantine. Well, not really. We're not necessarily all in quarantine, but we can't go out and do shit. So,
Right.
It's been a tough year.
Yeah, it's been a tough year. But then you have those moments where you do kind of realize, oh no, I am good at this, and maybe my career path is going to be different. Like my last thing that I hold on to happened in London. I'm like, I hold on to this. I hold on to this gem because it's the one thing I can hold on to right now. Because I was like, it came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't ask for it. I wasn't even looking for it. And it came out of nowhere. I was like, I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to hold on to this in my heart for as long as I possibly can. So, and you just figure it out. But yeah, I guess the work ethic is like, I don't want to not do this. So I'm like, well, then I guess I'll try this avenue, or I'll try this avenue, or I'll try this class, or I'll try this. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's like, I just want to do it. So I'll try as many different things as I possibly can.
Yeah, you just have to keep reinventing the wheel almost. Like,
yeah,
maybe if I attack it from this angle or whatever, I don't know. That's kind of how I think about it in my brain. Just, you just don't stop. You just find a new path or a different way of attacking it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't do, that's terrible English. I apologize.
I've been tripping over myself all morning, so
I don't do well not doing a lot.
Yeah.
In other words.
I know.
I know what you meant.
Like when people tell me, it's like, you want to go on a vacation? I go, I do. I'd love to go on a vacation. It's like, oh, let's go to a beach. I was like, that's not vacation for me.
What's vacation for you?
Vacation is going to like a city.
And like learning about the city.
Experience in the city. So like, every single time I moved to a city, when I moved to New York, I never did any of the tourist stuff. I would walk the city. I did this all throughout my freshman year, and people were like, "What?" And I was like, "I did this." That's also how I lost a ton of weight my freshman year. Was my second semester, I got a voice teacher through the school, and so I would walk. My school was on East 71st Street, and my voice teacher was on East 71st Street between 2nd and 3rd. So for those people who know New York, it's on East 71st Street between 2nd and 3rd. My voice teacher was on West 45th between 9th and 10th. And I would purposely make my appointment, I believe, on Thursdays, an hour after my last class, because I would walk from East 71st Street all the way to West 45th. I would do that walk every week because I was like, experience New York. So like when like people say, "You've never been to the Empire State Building?" I'm like, "No, I've been now, but like I did."
That's at least 3 miles, right?
Oh yeah, way over 3 miles.
Excuse my shaking.
And because then I would walk back from West 45th to my dorm, which was on East 55th. So I would walk back again back to my dorm. And even when I moved to LA, like I lived in LA, never went to the La Brea tar pits, never did any of these touristy things that everyone did. I was like, no, I got to experience Playa del Rey.
You got to bar hop at Playa del Rey,
which is one of the best things on the planet. Thank you, Jackson. And then I also
still have yet to do that, which I don't think I'll be doing that for a very long time. But
when things open up, I'm going there. That's what I want.
I just want to go for the pretzel burger again down at Triple. I mean,
that's
one of my favorite.
Amazing.
Oh my God, it's such a good row of bars and restaurants there, and you could just hop. It's so much fun. But one of my favorite memories with Matt is doing Jackson's scavenger hunt for his birthday, and we had to like literally like hit every spot in Playa del Rey and like do a shot at a different bar and like get a snack, take pictures like of us doing it. I think what is it called? What is that like shot with the whipped cream? Is it a blowjob shot?
Yes, it is.
There is a photo of me and Matt, whipped cream all over our faces.
There's a photo of me because we had to take a photo at Triple. They had like a libations thing, like
yes,
and that was like one of the things of the scavenger hunt. There's like a picture of like me lifting up my shirt, you taking.
Oh
pictures.
Yeah, yep.
And I was like, it was rare form because I never take my shirt off ever. So I was like, I don't know what was wrong with me that day. We did win though. Pam and I did.
Fuck yeah, we won. There was no other way that could have gone down.
Yeah, I think Jackson planned it for Pam and I. So.
No, I just think you and I have we're winners.
We don't say die. Plus, it was Jackson's 30th. We're like, dude, we're not going to lose on your 30th. So
I wonder if he's like laughing his ass off right now when he's listening to this.
I hope so. I hope I'm amusing you, friend. I really do.
So as soon as everything opens up, God willing, hopefully soon, I'm going to take Alexa for her Playa del Rey bar hopping experience. And Matt, we got to get you out here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm coming. I've said this. The second that it is easier to fly and everything, and I don't have to worry about quarantine for 14 days after I get back, because if I quarantine for 14 days, oh my God. I was like, I will not see my students for a very long time. I've planned this. It's like, okay, this is how it's going to go. I'm going to fly out to Utah. I'm going to see my friend in Utah. I'm going to fly from Utah to Montana. I'm going to see the guys in Montana, and then I'm going to fly to LA. And I'm planned this. I don't care how much it costs. I really don't. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I will do this little trip, and then I'll fly back to Jersey. I'd be like, yeah, there we go. I did. I covered all of my Western Coast people, and I saw all of them for at least 2 to 3 days, and then I'll head back to the East Coast.
Beautiful. Let's do it.
That's the plan.
It's happening.
Yep.
Let's move on because this is fabulous. But we have. Oh my God, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours.
We can keep going on so many different topics. No, it's all good. Tell us about Agents Declassified and how it came about.
Oh, okay. So Agents Declassified.
You guys, we have a podcast host up in here.
Yes. A professional, if you will.
It sounds so good, Matt. I'm just, like kind of
I'm gonna give the props.
envious.
I'm gonna give the props of that part to my producing partner Claire Buchignani, because I do not edit it. I'll say that I do not edit the podcast. I direct the podcast, so I'm directing the actors in the podcast, and I write the podcast. And like Claire will send me the rough edit, and I'll go, make this shorter, cut this, try this, can we have this sound? But she does all the work. So I'm not taking Claire Buchignani's props, because the reason it sounds so good is all Claire Buchignani. So
Shout out.
Claire, I love you. Thank you so much. But really, Agency Classified, I guess, came out of the need to work was one thing, because, we were all actors, all of us who are actors, our industry got hit hard with COVID, to which everything shut down. Broadway shut down, film and television shut down everywhere across the globe. So we were not working, not even knowing when we're going to be able to work. Broadway is now closed to June 2021. So New York is essentially an old West town. I'm surprised there's not like a bramble rolling through Third Ave right now.
Tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed. That's the word. But
a bramble, bracken.
Anyway, Tumbleweeds was a good movie starring Janet McTeer. Anyway.
Oh my God. Yeah, I told you guys.
Anyway, so plus I subscribe to your podcast. This is one that we're doing right now, No One's Okay. And I was seeing that Pam was making a podcast. And then my friend Sharibi Tay, who's a ASM on Broadway, she like a working ASM. She was working in Hadestown. And she created, I don't know if it's still going, so Cherie, forgive me if you're listening to this. She created this podcast called Unsad, which was basicly good news.
That's such a good title, Unsad.
And it's an acronym, and I cannot remember for all the words. I can't remember the first two, because I know it was like Sleep Aid Daily was the last three, so that was sad. I can't remember the first two letters, so Cherie, again, I am asking your forgiveness. But she would have only good news read by some of the actors that she was friends with. So like Ava Noblezada, I think I said that correctly, who was the star of who was playing Eurydice in Hadestown, and some other actors that she knew, and they would only read good news, because that was like the beginning of COVID, where everything was bad, everything was awful, everything was terrible, bad news, and then George Floyd was coming out, and everything was awful. So she was having she was
awful.
Was awful. Everything is awful. Everything is awful. Anyway. So she was having people read good news for people to go to sleep to.
I love that.
Like Sleep Aid Daily. So it was kind of listening. It was listening to her podcast. It was listening to yours, and seeing two of my close friends, producing things, trying to make the best out of this COVID time. So then I just was like, what if we made a scripted podcast? Which then, of course, I learned was now called a fiction podcast. I didn't know it at the time. But it's like, what if we do this? And what if it's a comedy? And we try to get people to laugh for 15 minutes or however long each episode lasts. What if we try that? So, and then I found a script that I wrote in 2017. I think it was 2017, as a Christmas present for my aunt. And I sent it to Claire, my producing partner, Claire Buchignani, and I said, do you think we could turn this into a podcast? I was like, just read the script and tell me, do you think we could turn this? Because I had asked her, because Claire and I had been looking for a project to work together on for a number of months at this point. And I was like, do you think we can turn this into a scripted podcast? And then Claire read it, and she came back. She's like, yes. So I was like, okay. So then it started the whole like, all right, let's call some actors. Let's edit the script, because like Aretha Franklin was a character in the show, in the thing. And I was like, well, we can't have Aretha Franklin in this, because then we'll have to call her estate, and I don't have money for that. So we changed characters, we changed names, we changed setups and things like that. And that's kind of where it happened. And then we started to record. And that's kind of what happened.
What's it about?
It's about these 4 secret agents that are currently stuck in the unemployment office for secret agents. And they're
Love
just
it.
waiting to get assigned a job.
It's really fun, you guys. Please check out Agents Declassified. The production value is amazing. The performances are so good. And Matt, like, I'm always just in awe of like how much material you can just pump out. Like the fact that it's scripted, it just blows my mind.
It was really scary.
And this is a medium you've never tackled before.
Never tackled it. I've also never written a whole series before. So it was, I was watching a lot of comedies while I was writing it. I'll be honest. I was watching a lot of comedies that I love while I was writing it to kind of see what they did and how they pushed the story forward and, or added things in. I mean, I'm a humongous television fan. I watch way too much. It's probably an undiagnosed addiction. Luckily, it's not diagnosed because then I'd probably have to go to a meeting and admit that I have the problem, and then I wouldn't be able to watch it. Because addiction is a real thing, and it's a real disease, and it's very debilitating. But yes, like I would watch Parks and Rec. I'd be watching Fleabag. I think I had Gilmore Girls on at one point. I had 30 Rock on. I mean, I was burning through comedies because I was just like,
I love all of those shows.
I had Friends on, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm trying to burn through of course I had West Wing on at one point because,
Let me just stretch before we get to our next question.
Yes, I know. This is a big one.
All right.
But I would do that kind of to listen because, for me, it's about timing. It's about pace, which I think most great comedies have that. They have a certain time. Each comedy has like their own pace. So when you listen to it, you can kind of see where their pacing kind of lands and how it works. So I was kind of like, okay, how do we want to do? How do we want to create our pace? And then what do we want to say about the characters this episode? How do we push it forward or what we're saying? So I was trying to learn from all those people. I don't know if I succeeded. We'll see at the end of the season. Because we've only released 3 episodes and now we're doing mini episodes every other week along with our big episodes to kind of build the world a little bit. Which means I have to write more. So I was like, okay.
I don't know where you get this time. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I stay up real late.
Yeah.
I do stay up late. I stay up late and I get up early, which people have told me is really bad for you. But I'm like, look, I try to maximize my time. Plus, I have a lot of shit to watch.
And he teaches.
Yes. Well,
auditions.
Well, I'm not auditioning as much right now, but I did before. And I do teach. Again, not as much right now. But teaching in a mask sucks. Anyway.
What do you teach? What do you teach?
I teach ballroom dance. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm in a mask at the studio with my students. They're in masks, so it's all very safe and everything. But God, it sucks after about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Your lungs are like, okay. And I go, well, at least they're strong.
Yeah.
Very strong.
True. You're building your endurance, right? I feel like.
Yeah, I had to do it. My friend who's a professional, who's also a professional dancer, jazz, lyrical, where I was her assistant. Today's Monday, so yesterday's Sunday. I was her assistant for a jazz class yesterday, and we had to do the entire class in a mask.
Yeah,
and it was high intensity jazz, and I was like, "Oh, this is awful."
Oh yeah, I've yet to do a dance class in the studio with a mask on. I've done stuff over Zoom classes.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
For sure, but I haven't done that yet, and that's a whole new ball game.
It's a whole thing. Anyway, okay. Moving on. Check out Agents Declassified. Woo!
Yes, check it out. Check it out.
We're on the second to last question now, and I'm just gonna do this.
Ooh,
that was a good crack.
That was a good.
That was a very good one.
Excellent.
Yes.
Any film or TV recommendations?
Oh my God.
Stretch it out.
Brilliant.
Where do I start?
I feel like I need to get a paper and pen and like write everything down that he's about to say.
I definitely probably have more television suggestions than I do have film, just because I'm a humongous television addict. I did just see, because I knew we want to talk about this, I did just watch the trial of the Chicago 7 last night.
All three of us watched it in preparation for this very episode.
And Sorkin's new film. Anyone who knows me knows my obsession with Aaron Sorkin. I have seen every single movie he's written, with the exception, I think, of Malice. I think he wrote very early on. He wrote a little bit in the movie Malice, which I
haven't seen that either.
Which is the only one I haven't seen. I've seen everything else. I mean, I am obsessed with this guy, and his plays. Like I own the Farnsworth Invention. I still haven't seen To Kill a Mockingbird. When it comes back on Broadway, I will go see it, but I have not seen that yet.
Me neither. I want to. I think I'm going to fly to New York to see that.
Oh, you come, I'll go with you.
Okay, yeah.
So the trial of the Chicago 7, it's pure Sorkin, by the way, which is
gorgeous.
It's great. He directed it, which is wonderful. It's pure Sorkin in that he's tackling a very political subject. So if you know Sorkin, he tackles the political subjects. But what I love about watching a Sorkin piece that is tackling political subject, which is almost everything he's done with the exception of Sports Night, which if you all have not seen Sports Night, please go watch Sports Night. It was the show he did right before West Wing, and actually at the same time.
It was great, but like the laugh track always like threw me off because I feel like Sorkin can't be watched with a laugh track.
And that's why he got rid of it by the end of season 1. There was no laugh track, and season 2 had no laugh track. And then you're like, now I'm watching Sorkin. Anyway.
Yeah.
Because that was before really single camera television was popular. He basically kind of started that. So again, he was ahead of his time with that. But it was pure Sorkin because he's tackling a very difficult subject that people probably don't want to revisit because they already have what they believe is true. I was not living during the trial, obviously. I didn't even really know about it. So it was great. Again, to me, it's like, this is a history lesson, learning about it. But it doesn't leave you. There's always a sense of idealism and hopefulness in a Sorkin project that deals with politics, because it's not about skewering the other side. I mean, he does do that a little bit, of course, but it's always about like, well, we're doing this for this reason, to give you something. And we're not saying everybody's bad. Like, it's the same thing. Like, if people watch West Wing, like, well, they'll probably say, well, he's a Democrat, so I can't watch it because I'm a Republican. I'm like, Jed Bartlett is a Democrat who is probably the least Democrat ever, but at the same time, he doesn't bash, Sorkin himself doesn't bash on the Republicans. He doesn't. He introduces a character who I love this character, and I wish she was on it more. Ainsley Hayes, played by Emily Proctor.
She's incredible.
I wanted her on that show, which she was on. She was on a number of episodes throughout, I think, season 2 and season 3. Mm-hmm. And then she came back in the last season, I believe, of the show when Sorkin wasn't there. But I was like, he doesn't bash. I was like, he's probably the most democratic person who tackles these types of subjects. So watching Chicago 7, I was like, I see the same things. He's not glossing over history. He's giving you the history. He put it in a very Sorkin-esque thing where he's like, I read a review that was in Variety. He's like, it's definitely, he's putting on the theatrical show of it, which is what it's, when you read about what happened at it's like, it's kind of was. It was like almost theater of the absurd somewhat. I mean, gagging Bobby Seale.
I had to look that up to see if that was true. And it sadly is.
Sadly it is, which is awful. I was like, you're gagging Bobby Seale. And I was just like, and the thing is, like, now he did speed up the timeline because when you look it up, you realize Bobby Seale was not gagged for one day. He was gagged for multiple days in the trial. Multiple days is bound and gagged.
It's honestly outrageous. Like, when I saw that part, I was like, oh, this isn't true. Like, this is for the theatrics. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh no.
Nope.
And I looked up the judge too because I was just so outraged. I was like, who is this guy?
Yep. All of it is true. And that's the thing. It's like, all of it is true. and he puts his spin on. I mean, like there's the Sorkin-esque things. Like there's the beautiful long speech that Eddie Redmayne gives. I was like, because I was waiting for like, where's the Sorkin speech? Because there wasn't many. I was like, where's the Sorkin speech? There always has to be at least one. And I was like, and there it is. I was like, okay.
And then there was the joke about the
one egg is enough.
One egg is enough. And then there's the explanation of what ensorcelled means.
Oh, yes. I texted while I was watching it. I texted Pam and I was like, he just used the word ensorcelled and I'm dying.
Because then he also did the explanation of what happens with the cabinet, which was in the beginning of the film, right in the beginning of the film, where the cabinet has to resign of the
yes, that was another one. Oh,
which I was like, I
yeah.
remember that. I was like, that was in season 4 when Bartlett got elected again. I was like, I remember this. And then the one egg and enough. I was like, oh, that was Margaret.
That was Margaret and Talio, yeah. But
you know,
I remember
John Spencer was like, what is wrong?
Which made me so happy that Alexa texted me that, because Alexa hasn't seen West Wing.
I haven't finished it.
She hasn't finished West Wing. Yeah. But one of the moments that stood out to her was the explanation of ensorcelled. I'm like, that's one of the Easter eggs. That's one of the Sorkinisms.
I felt part of the club at that moment. I was like, oh, I've joined.
I was waiting for him to give Jerry Rubin the line, because Abby Hoffman asked him, what are you going to do with the egg after he catches the egg? And I was waiting.
Why don't you get rid of it? You don't think I want to?
But I was waiting for him to say, oh, I'm going to wait for the autumnal equinox and try to stand it on its side. I was just like,
Wait, did he say that?
No, he didn't. But I was waiting for Sorkin to throw it in, because I was like, it's from a season.
That's from CJ.
That's from a season 4 episode with CJ.
Yeah.
And when they're playing poker, and they have the attack on the White House when they get the press room.
It was poker night.
Poker night, yeah. Which was I was waiting for it, but it didn't happen. But it's a brilliant script. It's a brilliant script, it's a crackling script, which you always know you're going to get with Sorkin. And the man's depth. He also, of course, worked in, again, some musical theater reference, because what most people don't know about Mr. Sorkin, and what I like to tell people, in case they don't know, because this is how deep my love goes, is that he was a musical theater major at Syracuse University. So I say, when you are listening to Sorkin, and Pam and I have talked about this, it's like when you're listening to Sorkin, you hear a Sorkin script, there's music. It's pure music. You can hear it. You can hear the music pouring from his script. Whether he will agree with me or not, that's how I feel.
That's why people like that aren't really aware. They're like, but they talk so fast. It's on purpose so that the beat can be kept.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically doing an entire patter song for the entire episode.
Yes, that's exactly how it feels.
And someone even calls someone out in the script, which is like, again, he's self-aware. Someone says it's just patter what you're doing. And I was like, haha. But then of course he worked in a musical theater reference with the magic beans, which is from Into the Woods. I was just like, I'm waiting for someone to say Into the Woods, because the guy does this all the time. In every show, there's musical theater references all the time, which is great. Newsroom, Sports Night, West Wing, all the stuff. Probably Studio 60. I haven't seen Studio 60 in a really long time, but it's probably anyway. But the Abby Hoffman scene when he's on
Sacha Baron Cohen is incredible.
Probably
Sacha Baron Cohen is beautiful, and his testimony, and this is now the second time that I've seen someone use Abraham Lincoln, which just kind of shows you how far off we've come politically. The first person I used, it was vice presidential nominee right now, Kamala Harris, in the vice presidential nomination, when they were talking about the Supreme Court and how Lincoln, in the middle of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, in the middle of the Civil War, was up for re-election. And one of the judges either died or resigned on the Supreme Court. And Abraham Lincoln said, I will not appoint a judge, because we're 26 days out of the election. The American people need to decide who's going to be president, and whoever wins gets to decide who gets placed on the bench. Yeah. He decided that. He said that way back when, not without the Senate telling him he had to, not whatever. And he had a Republican Senate.
And I think that's also what happened when Obama was leaving office.
Well, and
right? It was
he said the same. He was apparently Mitch McConnell said you have to do this, and then now he's going backwards.
He's basically going back on his word. Yeah,
which is great. You're so inspiring for our young children.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then And then Sorkin brings out Lincoln in his testimony, where he's talking about Abraham Lincoln. And what exactly did he say during Abby Hoffman's testimony? I'm blanking.
If it was about the overthrow of the government.
Oh, the overthrow of the government, which is again, it's Lincoln, speaking from 1860 whatever, 1860. He was president from 1861 to 1864, and then was killed in 1865.
I don't know the dates.
Well, I know he was shot. I know he was shot in 1865.
He's unbelievable.
What the heck?
This is the tip of the iceberg. I'm telling you, it's fucking crazy.
I know he was shot. I know he was shot in 1865 at the Ford's Theater in Washington D.C. By John Wilkes Booth. So Sic Semper Tyrannis is what John Wilkes Booth said when he jumped off the thing. But you all know this.
Okay, Matt.
I'm a big history buff. Anyway,
love it.
But the fact that he's bringing out this president, who a lot of people revere, and don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of things that Lincoln did that were not great, and he definitely, again, I'm not trying to say, oh, there was nothing. He's the greatest person on the planet. I was like, no, that's not true. But we're bringing out this man who I believe most people would say was a decent president and a decent politician and probably a decent person for that time that he lived in. But he's already coming out saying you need to overthrow, which is, we have the, it's the same thing going. It's basically saying we have the right to protest. It's written into the Constitution. It says we have the right for peaceful protest. We're allowed to do that.
And someone was like, well, what does that even look like? Peaceful overthrow? And they're like, we do it every 4 years in this country.
That's what it is. That's why we have the right to, vote. We have the right to change our minds. We have the right to go, no, we don't like you anymore. I mean, so
it was beautifully handled. And one thing that you said before that I want to kind of just add a little thing to, that Sorkin, leans heavily towards the left. The hero of Newsroom was a Republican.
Yep.
So I just wanted to add that on.
Oh no, I'm glad you say that. But then of course they're going to be like, well, he's a Republican who hates Republicans. It's like, no, he's a Republican who didn't like the Tea Party. And I was like, I don't think many people like the Tea Party.
I mean, here's the thing. It's not all black and white.
And what you're saying. Sorry, Alexa. It's true. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go.
No, I was just going to say it's not all black and white. And I think that's what I also love about Sorkin's writing is that he finds all of the gray areas and he makes them beautiful. And that's why I love it so much.
Well, that's why, one of the introduced in the first episode, this is again why I love the character of Jed Bartlett. And I've said this for years. I love the character of Jed Bartlett. Is what's introduced in episode 1 is someone's talking to Leo. It's in one of the first walk and talks of the episode. Leo's walking into the building and it's a press guy or something, or someone's talking to Leo. And he says, the president is Catholic and is pro-life, meaning, whatever, but does not believe that the government should be making decisions about the woman's body. And that's why he's a Democrat. And people don't believe that. I was like, why can't people believe that?
We're not. Yeah, exactly. We're all human here. Yeah. We have different.
Yeah. And again, to me, that's just how sharp Sorkin is aware of everything. And especially of someone like Jed Bartlett, who grew up the way he grew up and still has the religion that he has, because there's another beautiful scene where they're coming home from church and it's him and Abby Bartlett arguing over what the priest said. And I was just like, oh, this is brilliant. I was like, this needs to be on replay everywhere because they also have one of the best marriages ever on television. But okay, I have to recommend other things.
He's like, let me think.
Shit. What else could I recommend? Parks and Rec. I'll recommend Parks and Rec. Again,
that's a good one. That's a solid one.
I'll recommend Parks and Rec just because
positivity,
but also if you want to know how to rebound from a terrible opening, you should watch Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec. This is nothing against Parks and Rec. I love Parks and Rec. It's in my top 5 shows. But everyone knows it had one of the worst first seasons ever.
It didn't find its voice. until Rob Lowe and Adam Scott came on the show.
True. I agree that it wasn't the show we know, but I think it started to course correct itself at the beginning of season 2. Because I remember I told a very close friend of mine here, I said, you really need to watch Parks and Rec, because I had just finished my rewatch or something of the show. So you really need to watch Parks and Rec. And I said, I'm going to let you know right now, first season is terrible. She's like, what? I'm like, it's terrible. You're going to hate it. You're not going to understand half the stuff, why they're doing what they're doing.
He's just trying to be The Office, but it's not The Office. It was
trying to be The Office. And it was so interesting. It was trying to be The Office. And I just remember I watched the first episode going, I hate all these people. Like, I hate them. Like, I hated them viscerally. And I loved Amy Poehler. I was a huge Amy Poehler fan from SNL. I was very happy she had her own show. And she left SNL to do Parks and Rec, which was like really scary to me to watch this first season that was bad, going, oh my God, what's Amy Poehler going to do? Because I was thinking she's going to be out of work. She's not going to be out of work. But this is how much I care about you, Amy.
You were genuinely concerned about her career.
I was genuinely concerned about Amy Poehler's career. I really was. I was very, very nervous. Because like you look at Leslie Knope the first season going, everyone around her thinks she's stupid. Everyone around her thinks she's annoying. Everyone around her wants her basically fired. And Tom Haverford is even more vacuous and annoying. I mean, the only character that I think that was somewhat the same from beginning to end was Ron Swanson. But even then, in season 1, they have Ron Swanson in suits.
Yeah.
You even have the costume changes. They have Ron Swanson in suits. You're like, and if you saw the whole series, you look back at season 1 going, why is Ron Swanson in a suit?
It does change quite a bit.
So I think they realized how to change shows, because you can see it change in season 2. It's like you watch the opening of season 2 going, I'm watching a different show. I'm watching a different makeup. I'm watching everything. And then, of course, Adam Scott and Rob Lowe come in at the end of season 2, and you're like, oh, well, now I'm watching a really great show. So Parks and Rec, I'll recommend Fleabag on Amazon. If you want to go classic, Cheers. Everyone should watch Cheers. Specifically the Shelley Long years. You will never find someone who can deliver comedy that heightened with language, aside from Kelsey Grammer and everyone on Frasier. But I mean, Shelley Long is a revelation when you watch the first 5 seasons of Cheers. And I will say this today, nothing against Kirstie Alley, and I know everyone's hating on Kirstie Alley right now, and I'm not going to join in the bandwagon of hating her, but I am a Diane Chambers fan. Diane Chambers Cheers fan. I watched all of Cheers, and yes, it's great up until the end, but it was amazing with what they gave Shelley Long and how she played the brokenness of the character and the mental breakdowns and all this stuff, and her relationship with Ted Danson. I mean, it was pure fire and awesome. I mean, the fact that they would slap each other, I was like, physical comedy of the show. The ending of season 1 and the ending of season 2 of that show. Holy crap. I mean, I was like, I can watch this for days on end. They're holding each other's noses, and Shelley Long's just like, this is it. We've sunk so low. And I'm like, she's giving a Shakespeare speech while Ted Danson's holding her nose and she's holding his. I was like, there's only one person who could do this, and it's Shelley Long. There's only one. I was like, I don't care if you tried to recreate this. Like, she's the only one who could do this. And so I'd go back and I'd watch Cheers.
I think those are great. Those are great recommendations. You fucking nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a much longer list. You should just do a podcast of my list.
I know. We should just do a recap film list. This was great. I think it's perfect. Those are perfect shows for quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're really good shows for quarantine. Golden Girls.
Oh, I love Golden Girls. Yes.
If you want to, again, a show with some badass actresses who are at the top of their game, and probably, 3 of them are dead now, and Betty White is still alive, thank God. Betty White, who's still at the top of her game, you watch her, she can still deliver a joke better than half of the people out there.
Her timing, man, she has me laughing out loud.
It just goes to show you, the act of being on a set and training yourself and learning while you're there. I mean, she's got timing better than, probably some people. That's why she walks circles around these people doing comedies. Yeah. It's great. But yeah, Golden Girls, just to see some badass actresses go to town.
I used to be
Love that.
obsessed with Will and Grace also.
Well,
Loved.
Will and Grace is in the beginning for me. Is like the beginning of the show of Will and Grace is kind of genius.
Mm-hmm.
Very again, it was during the heyday of must-see TV on NBC, because it started in 1998, which was 4 years after Friends. Friends started in 94, so it was in that era of must-see TV. You know, ER was still on. Great medical show, with great acting.
That's what got Clooney started.
That was one of Clooney's first things. Because Clooney was doing stuff already. Like he appeared in an episode of he was in a season of Facts of Life, the Charlotte Rae show, which I've seen every episode of that. Because of
I love it.
reruns. But it's a good theme song. Anyway, because Cloris Leachman was also ended that show after Charlotte Rae left. Who was another great actress.
Now you're just showing off, Matthew.
I know. I'm like, all right.
Well, Cloris Leachman.
You do the show. You You've got this.
I mean, everyone. I mean, not everyone, but you know, if you've watched Mary Tyler Moore, Cloris Leachman played Phyllis. So, and she's another great actress who's been around forever. You know. And is still around. So it's just, you know, again, you're seeing these really great actresses that are still around, still do stuff. But yeah, like Clooney was on that show for five seasons, and then he left, and he was becoming George Clooney at the time that he was on the show, and then he left, and now he's George Clooney. I mean, he was George Clooney there, but now he's George Clooney. So a great show, but like Will and Grace in the beginning was stellar. But again, shows you the development of actors figuring things out. Because if you watch the first season of Will and Grace, great writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still figuring out the characters. But like Megan Mullally didn't have Karen's voice in the first season.
I know. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
And you come back in season 2, and you're like,
and I love it.
And you're just like, oh, here's Karen.
Here's
Karen.
Now I get it. Yeah.
But she was great in season 1, but then like, oh, here's Karen. Oh, this is the Karen.
She's arrived. Yeah.
So Will and Grace, great show. Big, and you know, but that was that era where NBC was just could not do anything wrong, really, at that time. And then, of course, all those shows ended and they plummeted to last place.
Yeah.
And now have got their way back.
Yeah.
So I think
last question.
I think it's time to ask the final question.
Yes.
I'm gonna hide.
All right. Matt, are you okay?
I think the answer is supposed to be no one's okay, right?
Yeah, no.
Yes.
I'm okay in some ways. I'm okay in not some other ways. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Why aren't you okay?
Well, you know, I'm stuck in quarantine. You know, I there are certain things in my life that I wish would have been done by now, considering, you know, how old I am, which again is not old. But
you're not old.
I had my life planned when I was 12.
Me too. Didn't turn out the way I planned.
It has not worked out. I was like, I'm supposed to be married by now. I'm supposed to already have a kid. I was like, not married, don't have a kid, none of that shit. But I mean, but then I can't be upset with how things have gone. You know, I do believe things happen for a reason. You know, if I didn't go to Philly, if I had just stayed in New York, I wouldn't have had any impetus to move to Los Angeles. Because like that was like the time when I was leaving Philly. I was like, oh, do I want to go back to New York right away, or do I want to go to Los Angeles? Because I had the opportunity. I could have gone back and lived in my old apartment with my best friend, or I could have moved to Los Angeles, literally at the same time. And I chose Los Angeles. I don't know why. I just said, oh, I feel like I have to go there. But then, you know, I met you. I was able to do the Meister training out there. And I met you, and I met Jackson, who are some of my best friends and who I never would have met if I didn't move to Los Angeles. I got to see 3 of my nieces and nephew born. The 4th one was born during quarantine, who I still have not met in person, which annoys me, but that's a whole other thing. I saw my brother get married. I saw my brother get engaged. I was at his engagement. I set up everything. Whole nother story. I met a great acting coach out there who, of course, since like after a certain while, I was like, okay, it's time for me to move on from that. I would never have learned about the RADA program if I wasn't out there, because the guy who I learned it from was someone I met while I was in Los Angeles. And I don't know if I would have started writing. I wouldn't have written the musical I wrote because I met a friend out there who inspired that. So, and then
I'm glad you moved to Los Angeles.
I have to say, I have to be happy that I moved to Los Angeles. I mean, so many things happened while I was. So I wouldn't have become a ballroom dancer if I didn't live in Los Angeles, because the whole reason that happened was a fluke. It was only because Anna literally took a chance on me. Our friend Anna.
Shout out
Anna. Literally took a chance on me. Her and her mother. Wouldn't have happened if I didn't move to Los Angeles. And some people, you don't know that. I said, no, I kind of do. The only reason I knew Anna was because Anna was in our acting class. It's the only reason why. So I was like, wouldn't have happened because Anna is never leaving Los Angeles.
No,
never. She's got a husband and two kids. She's never leaving. So yeah, I was like, none of that stuff would have happened. So like I've had a ton of heartache that happened there as well, like a ton that I'm still recovering from. But yeah, so okay in some, not okay in others. But I think that's how everybody feels most of the time.
Yeah.
So, and I think it comes down to how you focus or what you focus on. And like, I guess that goes back to like when you say like the work ethic thing. I have my moments and I have days and periods, and that's when I said like, people ask you don't date enough, and I'm like, well, because I meet them and after about 5 seconds I know that they're not going to be the person, and they're like, how? I'm like, trust me. And I go, because it's like, I already know. I said I can take care of most things by myself. I'm pretty good. I can pull myself out of dark places most of the time. I said, but I need someone who, when I officially cannot pull myself out, when I'm done, meaning it's been too much, it's too much, I'm like, I'm gonna curl up in a ball. That's when I need someone to hold me up and hold me figuratively or literally. But I was like, yep, haven't met that person. I'm like, I read them and I go, you can't handle this. I already know you can't handle this. It's like one of those things, like, aside from my friends, like, it's different. Like, your friends can, but then it's not the same in that way. But at least your friends understand it and can go with it. But I think if you focus on that too much, then it does become overwhelming. And so I think it's good to look outwards and look at what your friends are doing. Agency Classified wouldn't have happened if you didn't start this podcast.
That's so flattering.
Yeah.
It's true, though. It wouldn't have happened if either one of you didn't get together or meet in an audition. Because didn't you guys meet like on the audition circuit or something?
No, we met working at a gym together.
Yes.
Oh, okay. But you're both auditioning. So it's like, it wouldn't have happened if you guys didn't meet. And Agency Classified wouldn't have happened if this podcast wasn't happening, if Cherie didn't do hers. I even, and then I did Based On, which was so much fun.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Very excited for
another slight little like nod to something. So so everything does happen for a reason, and you just hope, you have to continue to hope that something eventually will break, as I say. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
Good.
Totally.
That was such a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah. Pamela, are you okay?
No. I'm better than okay. I'm so happy that, Matt, that you came on the show today. It's always so much fun to podcast with you. And I'm also not okay because of I had a Sorkin marathon this weekend, and it was like so good for my soul. Really, really, really enjoyed that. And I got a good workout in yesterday, which I haven't in a long time. So honestly, I was listening to the Brene Brown podcast,
Mhm.
and she was talking about how, and this is going to sound like insane that I didn't know this, but like emotions are actually like not just in your brain, they're in your body. Like they're stored in there, and that she was talking about how like there's like a stress cycle, and she had a couple of guests on the show that were explaining this. There's a stress cycle that needs to be completed to actually like not, get a headache, not get sick. So actually the last like 4 days I had a migraine, and someone recommended this podcast to me. Thank you for that. That was amazing. And they say one of the ways to like complete the stress cycle is to have some physical activity and to have a positive social interaction, which to me is counterintuitive, because when I have a migraine or a tension headache, all I want to do is lie on the floor in the dark with ice on my head until it goes away. And sometimes it takes like 3 days, which is a fucking time waster, and it sucks. So I'm literally like sitting in the hallway just dying. But they're like, no, go for a walk and talk to somebody. And so I was like in pain, but I decided to give it a shot, because when you're in that much pain, you're like desperate. So I started walking around my apartment, and I called up some friends, and I laughed. And after I think about 2 hours, I felt so much better. And so I'm very happy that I kind of discovered that. Like it seems kind of logical that like you should just move your body, because it lets out the feeling of stress.
Best way to cure a hangover.
For me, that's like a burger.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I need some French
and
fries.
a Bloody Mary.
I tell people this all the time. People think I'm crazy, but it's absolutely true. Because I would go out drinking with like you and Jackson and everybody normally on Saturday nights, and then I would teach a fitness class Sunday morning.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that.
Well, I would show up hungover a lot.
Yeah.
But they didn't know that, because you plaster on a face.
Mm-hmm.
Actors were good, like, I'm totally fine. About 15 minutes in, after I had a real good sweat going, all of a sudden everything kicked in. I was like, oh, the toxins are gone.
Yeah, that's it. For me, it's the wings
Sweat
from
it
Prince
out.
of Wales. The chicken wings. That's what always helps. You gotta eat something.
Mm-hmm.
Alexa,
Yes.
are you okay?
I am more than okay. I'm very happy to have met Matt. This was so lovely. Honestly.
I've been telling her forever that I wanted you guys to meet, because I feel like you guys have a lot of the same likes.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. No, I'm definitely more than okay. But sometimes I'm definitely less than okay, for sure. And just, I don't know, taking more time for me. I keep saying this, I feel like, on every podcast, but that really has been my mantra for this whole quarantine time. Because I like to do 1,000 things too, Matt. So I get that vibe, and which is good for me. But at sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm gonna combust. I need to like take a minute. So just figuring that out, listening to, like, I have a whole morning routine now that has really changed my life. I wake up, I drink coffee, and I either read a book. I'm reading currently right now about Zelda Fitzgerald, because I love history. I love learning about historic women and their lives and whatnot. But either read a book, or I listen to a podcast, or I actually recently bought an adult coloring book.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. It's great.
And that is a huge stress reliever for me. So lots of exciting self-growth things happening.
It's definitely a better thing than my morning routine.
What's your morning routine?
What's your morning routine?
I wake up, I go downstairs, I grab my breakfast, which is the same breakfast every morning. I go upstairs and I turn my television.
He's like, TV immediately.
No, it is true. I mean, when I say I watch too much, I mean I watch too much. All of the time. It is my stress relief. It is my absolute.
But see, if it works for you, then do it. Keep doing it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I tell people, like, don't bother me in the morning and don't bother me at night.
Yeah,
bother me during the day.
Just don't bother me.
Just don't bother me at all.
Well, especially I was like in the morning, I'm like, well, first I've just woken up. And then at night, I was like, okay, most of the time I've worked the whole day, which means I've been with people all day. And now I've reached the point where I'm like, okay, I need to be away from people.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, it's 11 o'clock. Stop texting me.
Leave me alone.
Oh God, that was me. Like during the Sorkin marathon, I was like, oh, Matt's probably up, but it's midnight. But I didn't even think. I'm like, oh, he's probably like doing his alone time
you
thing.
always text. You always text me about Sorkin. You don't ever apologize.
If it's Sorkin, it's okay. That is the one.
No, and it's only it's only like certain people, you know, and it's like, you know, because you know we all have those friends who are like, oh, you take a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing against them. There's nothing wrong with them. But we know he's like, you take a lot of energy. Right now, my energy is gone. And I'm trying to get my energy
I'm
back.
rebooting.
Yeah.
Right. So in order for me to do this, I kind of have to be like, you know, it's like, that's when I go, these are my short text messages where like, I go, ha. and then they text back again. I'm like, you're not getting it. I'm trying to be polite.
You're not getting it.
So if anyone's listening to this and I've done this to you, I apologize, but that's
I think you gave me a ha with an exclamation point a couple of nights ago. Fuck. It was also very late, but forgiven. I know you're not apologizing, but you're forgiven.
I'll apologize. There you go. But it also could, because that's why it's different. Like sometimes you might say something funny, and how I try to tell people I'm laughing is I just write ha.
And the thing is, I heard it with your like actual laugh, because when you're caught off guard by something funny, you do one ha, and it's like boisterous, and that's what I heard when you texted me that.
And that's probably what I was doing in my head. So that's why I was like, I was like, this is Pam. She understands what I'm doing.
Matt, where can our listeners follow you? Follow you.
Come follow.
Come follow. You're from Oklahoma. I'm on Instagram, Matt.Mancuso1, I believe is my handle. I never remember, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And then you can also follow Ages Declassified Podcast, because I post for them too. I just posted my vote picture today.
Excellent. Subscribe to the podcast, you guys. It's a good one.
Ballot. But so that's where I am. I don't post. I'm trying to post more because I don't post terrible amount of stuff, but I try to post more. I have a friend who's telling me I have to. That's why I gave her my account information. I was like, you can post for me. Go ahead.
Also, Matt sings a lot on his Instagram. So,
oh God,
yes. So follow us if you want to hear those sweet tunes.
Yes.
I want to count of how many times Matt turned red on this episode.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
I told you this is gonna be a crack up thing.
I love
that. Was terrible.
So
that was an awful joke. Okay,
no, it was so good. It was so good. We were so happy to have you, Matt. Thank you so much.
I was happy to be here. Thank you.
You're the best.
Both for having me. You're fantastic.
If you're ever down, you're always welcome on the show.
Yeah, always.
Whenever you want me. I mean, I'm around right now. I'm not doing much, so I'm just the show's almost wrapped for this season. And then we might be doing another one, a different show, Claire and I together. So we'll see. But
yay!
Awesome.
So I'm around. You can just call, hang out, send a text.
Ha! Ha!
It is true though that I do laugh like that when something's like initially.
It's the best. It's the best. Thank you so. What?
No. You're done.
No. What were you gonna say?
No, it was just another thing about the laugh. Just go. We're done.
I want to hear it. Don't hide.
I don't remember.
All right, he left.
Oh God.
Thank you. I'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Follow Matt and listen to his podcast.
Yes.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the things. If for some reason you want to see more of us, you can follow us on Instagram @NoOne'sOkay.
And a special thanks to Jordan Ross Weinhold, Sean Moore, Jason Crow, Claire Palmer, Jackson Palmer, Tiffany Haymoff, Shane Rings, James Liddell, and our podcast is recorded at Soundworks Studios.
We can't wait to meet you!